Have you ever found yourself dreaming of great achievements, imagining a bright future full of accomplishments, only to end up feeling drained and stuck in the same place? Ambition is a powerful force that, when properly channeled, can lead us to extraordinary places. However, without action, ambition is like a fire that never ignites. It can be inspiring, but it is useless if not accompanied by discipline and the determination to act. The Greek philosopher Aristotle once said, "Excellence is not an act but a habit." In other words, our dreams and goals are not realized simply by the desire to achieve them, but by the repetition of small daily actions that bring us closer to that goal. Ambition alone is not enough. It needs to be fueled by consistent action. And this is where many people fail. They get lost in the dream of success without ever taking the first step. Imagine for a moment that you have the desire to write a book, but you never start writing because you feel you don't have the time or are waiting for the perfect inspiration. Or maybe you want to lose weight, but every morning you find yourself still asleep, telling yourself, "Not today, tomorrow I'll start." The problem is not the lack of ambition, but the lack of action. Procrastination comes into play, creating a vicious cycle that steals your progress. What you do on a daily basis defines your path. It's pointless to have big dreams if you're not willing to get your hands dirty. You need to act every day, even if the journey seems long or tiring. To turn ambition into reality, the first thing we need to understand is that great achievements are not the result of giant leaps, but of small steps repeated consistently. So what's the key to breaking this cycle? The first step is to take the first step. It may sound simple, but the reality is that many of us get paralyzed by the idea that we need to do everything at once or wait for the perfect moment. The truth is, there is no perfect moment. The best time to act is now. Don't let ambition be just a vague idea in your mind. Turn it into concrete action. When we talk about laziness, many imagine someone lying on the couch, unwilling to do anything. However, laziness has a more subtle and dangerous face: procrastination. Procrastination is not just a temporary delay of tasks, it's a psychological mechanism that disguises itself as plausible excuses to avoid action. "I'm tired, it's not the right time, I need more information." These are just a few of the excuses our mind creates to avoid the necessary effort. Procrastination has a silent power to sabotage our plans. It convinces us that tomorrow will be a better day, that the future is the ideal moment to start. But the truth is, tomorrow never comes. And when it finally arrives, we are left with the same burden from yesterday, another day wasted. And the cycle continues, feeding the sense of frustration and regret. The existential philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "Procrastination is the art of living in the future without ever living in the present." This leads us to reflect on how we are neglecting the now, the moment when we can truly act, by holding on to an idea of a distant future that never materializes. Here lies the big problem. Procrastination is not just an issue of laziness. Often, it is tied to the fear of failure or criticism. The mind tells us that if we don't try, we won't risk failing. But in doing so, we are actually failing in a much more significant way, because we never give our potential a real chance. Procrastination then becomes a form of self-protection, but an illusory protection that prevents our growth and evolution. So, how can we break free from this vicious cycle? The first step is to accept that procrastination is rooted in fear. The key to overcoming it is to confront that fear consciously. Start small. Instead of worrying about the size of the task, focus on immediate action, the first step. This creates momentum, and soon you will be engaged in a constant activity that prevents procrastination from taking over again. One powerful strategy is the 5-minute rule. Set a short period of time to begin. If you commit to working for just 5 minutes on a task, you'll find that often this is enough to overcome inertia and keep going. As you practice this technique, procrastination loses its power, and the simple act of starting becomes the key to continuing. We've all fallen into the trap of thinking, "I'll do it later." It's a seductive mindset, promising a better, more suitable future to start. Perhaps it's because we feel we don't have enough time now, or maybe the task seems too big for the moment. Either way, later becomes an illusion that keeps us paralyzed and distant from our goals. The problem with this mindset is that it makes us always live in the future, postponing the present, and thus drifting further away from what we truly want to achieve. The French philosopher Blaise Pascal once said, "The future has many names. For the weak, it is the unattainable. For the fearful, it is the unknown. For the brave, it is the opportunity." By letting later dominate our lives, we are, in fact, rejecting the opportunities of the present and creating an abyss between where we are now and where we want to be. Many times we believe that later will be the right moment, the time when everything will align, when the ideal conditions will appear. But in doing so, we lose the only thing we can truly control, the now. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us, "Do not wait for things to happen as you wish. Focus on what is within your reach, on what depends on you." The now is the only opportunity we have to change our destiny. And if we keep waiting, we are doomed to a life of frustration and regret. The later mindset is not just a distraction from the present, it's also a form of self-sabotage. It convinces us that eventually we will find the perfect moment. But that moment never comes. What really happens is that we keep pushing our responsibilities further away, losing control over our time and direction. Later becomes a vortex that sucks all our energy and prevents us from moving forward. So what can we do to combat this mindset? The first step is to adopt an attitude of urgency. This doesn't mean acting recklessly or hastily, but recognizing that time is passing and life doesn't wait. To do this, we need to come to terms with the idea that there is no perfect moment. Perfection lies in taking the first step now, not in waiting for the ideal setup. A good practice to combat the later mindset is to set personal deadlines. By making a commitment to yourself, you create a sense of responsibility and urgency that propels you into action. Don't wait for tomorrow to make important decisions. Tomorrow is just an extension of today, and it's in the present that we can truly make a difference. Now that you understand the impact of ambition without action and the vicious cycle of procrastination, we arrive at the point of transformation, how to take your ambition off the paper and turn it into reality. The key to this lies in the power of habit. After all, as the Roman philosopher Seneca said, life is not short, but we make it short by our own negligence. Habits are the small daily actions that over time accumulate and result in significant changes. If you want to change your life, don't wait for a magical transformation, but rather embrace a steady progression of daily actions that together create the foundation of your success. The secret isn't in making a big effort once in a while, but in maintaining consistency day after day. Start by setting small goals and working toward them one at a time. This creates a sense of progress and achievement, which is essential to fuel motivation. For example, if you have the ambition to write a book, start by writing just 1 page per day. Don't worry about the quantity or quality of the writing at this first stage. What matters is creating the habit. Consistency is what over time turns 1 page a day into a complete book. The great mistake many people make is believing that they need to do everything at once, that they need a dramatic instant change. The truth is that small, consistent steps are the most powerful. It's the sum of these small actions that forms the foundation of success. As philosopher Charles Darwin said, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Adapting means being able to take small actions repeatedly without getting discouraged by the lack of immediate results. Another important strategy to turn your ambition into action is creating an environment that supports your habits. If you want to be more productive, organize your workspace in a way that encourages you to take action. Eliminate distractions and create a routine that aligns with your goals. The environment you live in can be a great force for or against you. Therefore, invest time in shaping that environment in a way that strengthens your discipline. Finally, remember, ambition is the spark, but habits are the fuel. There's no point in having big dreams if you don't have the habit of working toward them. True change doesn't happen overnight, but in the day-to-day, in the repetition of actions that over time become a part of who you are. So, commit to the process. Success is closer than you think. It all starts with the habit of taking action, even if it's in small doses. Now that you've had the chance to reflect on how to turn your ambition into action, it's time to take the next step. Remember, the only moment we can truly control is the now. So, what are you going to do with the time you have today? If this video was helpful to you, don't forget to leave a like, comment below on the next steps you're planning to take, and of course, subscribe to keep receiving more reflections and tips like this. The journey of change begins with the first step, and I want to be here to support you every step of the way. Also, share this video with someone you think could benefit from hearing this message. Let's help more people take that first step toward transformation.